Luckily, they're tapped out of mana this turn as well, so they can't hammer us. Although, I guess it wouldn't do anything without an equipper of some sort, like a Sigarda's Aid or whatever, so... I mean, there's definitely a shot for us to win this game. No hammer, no hammer. Alright, so our opponent's on the Motley Crew plan. Ooh, an Amulet. Interesting. Well, we might have Titan this turn after all. Hello, and welcome, everybody. We are here for round 5 with the list you see on screen, 5th and final match. And we are currently 2-2, which is not the worst, not the best. If we end up 2-3, we only get half of a league's worth of value back, as if I really care, because honestly, I really don't. If we end up 3-2, we get to go infinite, quote-unquote, so that is the stakes that we are playing for. And either way, we will have some takeaways from this deck list and this league at the end of this video, so if you want to see my thoughts on the deck list and what it means to be playing an FNM list versus a list that I would tailor to play online, we'll go over that a little bit at the end of this match. But regardless, let's just jump straight into match 5 here. Also, I do want to mention, as I usually do, that if you have not seen this deck list in action before, then you need to check out match 1, where I cover in detail everything you need to know about the deck list and where it came from. And of course, you can always find the actual link to the deck list in the description below, so if that's something that you are looking for, then you can find it there, and many other useful resources, such as my Twitter page, which, if you're not subscribed to it, or whatever you do on Twitter, I don't know what it's called, follow. If you have not followed it, then you can go ahead and follow it there. We'll jump into this match as well. On the play. Didn't say it fast enough. Did not say it fast enough. Just pop out the graveyards here preemptively as our opponent reveals Luris. Maybe it's a grindy matchup. Maybe not. We have a turn 2 nothing, turn 3 Dryad into turn 4 potentially Titan if we top deck an untapped source. Against a Luris deck, that's actually not bad. We have duplicates of Titan or Dryad. We have Explore for redraws. If we top deck an untapped source, then we get to turn 2 Explore here as well. Or a Amulet would be a good top deck as well. This is one of those hands I think is just barely close enough for me to keep it, because of the potential to cast Explore on turn 2, but also because Dryad plus Titan should be very powerful against whatever our Luris opponent could be putting in play here. So, alright, untapped source or any land that's not a bounce land off the top is good here pretty much. Even a Valakut would be fine. We might still be a little too slow. Explorer, not the best draw here. Oh well. We can still top deck an Urza Saga. That's the one that we want. Otherwise, I feel like our hand might be a little too slow here. Our opponent doesn't have Sigarda's Aid or anything, so... Of course, they could just play the Sigarda's Aid and a Colossus Hammer right now and just clock us in 2 turns, and there's basically nothing we could even do about that. Ingenious Smith, the 2-mana 1/1 that gets a counter whenever 1 or more artifacts enters the battlefield under our opponent's control. And of course, they can only do that once each turn. But also, more prudently, when it enters the battlefield, they get to look at the top 4 and put an artifact from among them into their hand and the rest on the bottom. So we'll see what artifact they find. Springleaf Drum. Wish they had that one before they played anything else, right? To ramp out a bit. Turn 3 Springleaf Drum, not looking the greatest. Untap land. Alright, we'll take it. And here we'll just name Giant because I don't really see a reason to name literally anything else. So our opponent gets to draw a card with the Esper Sentinel, which is quite annoying if I might say. But not much we can do about it. And yeah, we'll throw a Growth Chamber into play here. And I guess pick up the Cavern just to reset it. Next turn we can play Dryad, Forced Cavern, Explore, and have a turn 4 Titan here. Springleaf Drum. Oh no. Not Springleaf Drum. Let's see if our opponent has hammer combo stuff. It is an artifact, so this lets them get Metalcraft with Pure Steel Paladin, which they don't seem to have. Just them having multiple Ingenious Smiths against us is exactly what we want to see. Luckily, they're tapped out of mana this turn as well, so they can't hammer us. Although, I guess it wouldn't do anything without an equipper of some sort, like a Sigarda's Aid or whatever, so... I mean, there's definitely a shot for us to win this game. And we have Garenbrig as well, that's pretty cool. Well, let's go ahead and play a land out and then play Dryad here, as is the technically correct thing to do. And I am going to put the Garenbrig into play. And we will explore here, of course. Oh, they get to draw a card. I didn't even think about that. Well, in that case, maybe exploring here was a huge punt. I didn't even think about it. Alright, well, I mean, that Valakut kind of makes up for it. Let's just hope that we're not dead. They do have a hammer, so if they have a Sigarda's Aid or a Pure Steel Paladin, we could be in a little bit of trouble here. Yeah, maybe actually playing that Explorer was a huge punt. Sigarda's Aid. Yeah, not great. And now we're just dead at instant speed, right? Let's say we block the Sentinel, then they hammer. Oh wait, we block the 2 here, they hammer something else we take. 11, 12, 13. I guess we're not technically dead. They can kill the Dryad, though. Let's see, 3 pack for Dryad, play land. If we draw an untapped source, we can still play Titan and Dryad in the same turn, so... I mean, we have to block like this. I think we're taking Xaxes because of the +1/+1 counter, right? That's 2, plus 10 is 12, 13, 14. Ugh! There's no way for us to know if they had the Sigarda's Aid this whole time or not, though. It's possible that casting the Explorer lets them draw the aid to actually kill us here. Oh well. Exactly at 0. Would we have hit the untapped source? Oh, we would have! No! Alright. Alright. We want all of these things that interact with our opponent's board state, especially things like Force of Vigor. We want the Dismembers. We want Radiant Fountain, so it prevents us from dying in 2 turns to a early hammered creature. Explorer's a bit slow here, as we literally just saw. The Relic does literally nothing. Cavern's alright for playing Grazer on 1. And I do like having all of the packs, all of the Dryads, and all of the Titans, for a reason of the fact that we need both of these cards in play pretty much to win against them, to either control their board or to just outright kill them, so... We could trim 1 Saga, but I don't think I really care for that. I think we can trim 1 Cavern. We can probably trim the Expedition map as well. I can't really explain why, but I feel like Expedition map is kind of slow. It might be wrong, though. Like, if we have turn 1 Saga Amulet, and then need to map for a bounce land, that's definitely something that could happen. I don't know. I'm not super concerned about it, though. If we get punished by that, we get punished by that. We can trim Breeding Pool, as we'll be setting up our blue to transmute, probably with a Titan ETB trigger resolving, not off of fetching and shocking and losing life against our opponent's aggressive creatures. I don't mind trimming a single Saga, perhaps, to play around something like Seal of Cleansing, or something along those lines. But I also don't love it either. I guess we just trim another Cavern, as it is our strictly worst forest land, pretty much. It doesn't let Garen Ring enter untapped, and it doesn't play a Grazer on 1 and then subsequently cast a Dryad or a Titan later, so... I think it's okay to cut Caverns. Makes me feel even worse about cutting the Breeding Pool, though. 1 more. I kind of want to make it a pact, but I also think we need all of the redundant copies of things that we can get, so... I guess it's 1 Saga. I mean, maybe we should be ignoring their potential hate for Saga and trying to go as fast as possible, though. I feel like that's going to be our best route to win, and if they Seal of Cleansing us, then so be it. In which case, I think it's alright to just trim Radiant Fountain, I guess. Actually, we'll trim 1 Garen Ring, because we don't want to have multiples of that particular card. I think the Fountain could be impactful. Not to mention that it is a turn 1 source for Amulets, so... Alright, we'll be on the play, of course. Very important in this matchup. Our hand that we kept in Game 1 might have gotten there on the play. On the draw, it definitely was not going to get there, though. We have the classic double explosives hand. I mean, I am keeping this, I'm pretty sure. We have Force. If we draw any other green card, then we can pitch not Titan, but otherwise we might just pitch Titan, and that could be fine. I'm going to fetch a basic and get the explosives on 1 out right now, I think. Mana efficiency is much more important, I think, than transparency in this matchup. I could be wrong, but... If we draw an untapped land either this upcoming turn or the turn after, then we can activate Saga for a creature, so there's that. Lead on Sentinel. You got it. Mem Knight, okay. Interesting. Valakut. I think we can play a little bit of a slower game here. The only problem with playing Valakut is that if our opponent has exactly, like, Sigarda's Aid plus Hammer, and they want to get in for, like, what is that, 10, 11, 12 damage, put us to 7, then they could potentially just clock us over a couple turns with some random dudes, but I think we still have 1 more turn before we have to pop this explosive, so I'm just going to play the Valakut and pass. This way we can get some value out of our Saga in the form of some chump blockers. And if they Seal of Cleansing to trade with our explosives on 1, and that takes their whole turn, then I'm actually pretty okay with that, so... Saga. Alright, well, that's something that we could force a Vigor if we want to. And we probably will. There's the Seal of Cleansing. Goodbye explosives on 1. We definitely would have gotten completely owned by this Seal if we had played out the Saga, by the way, so... I feel better about that, at the very least. Alright, we'll just go ahead and untap here, I suppose. If they're not going to steal the explosives, then... I mean, we'll just hold it up, I guess. And I think we're probably forcing the Saga and the Sentinel pitching Grazer. We could also pitch Titan, but I don't really see a need for that. We are kind of far away from getting to Titan mana, though. Like, if we were to play Saga, Grazer, Growth Chamber, pick up Basic Forest, we could still pop explosives. Nah, I mean, that would kill our Grazer anyways. I think it's okay to just force pitching the Grazer here and play out the Saga, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this on our opponent's upkeep, I guess. Because it does have to be during their turn, otherwise we can't free cast the Force, so... There you have it. They're hitting the explosives. Nah. Boop. Alright. We get to keep our Saga. That's great. And then on their upkeep, we're going to hit their creature and their Saga because we can't get them... We can't give them the ability to make an extra body here with their Urza Saga if they just played land to activate. There's no reason to let that happen. Just gets all of their entire clock out of play, so... I don't see anything wrong with it. I guess our best top deck would be, like, literally any random land. Ingenious, Smith, and an Inkmoth Nexus. Oh, do we have the Ghost Quarter? I think I completely neglected to bring in the Ghost Quarter. That's pretty annoying. Alright, Saga, I'll take it. I was thinking a second Saga would expose us to them having... I mean, it's not like they're going to play Force. I don't know why I was even thinking about that. We're supposed to play explosives on 1 here. I don't see why not. I think the easiest way for us to lose is some hammer shenanigans, so... I guess playing the explosives out would potentially expose us to another Seal of Cleansing, but, I mean, we're going to have Titan this upcoming turn anyways, so let's just go ahead and deploy explosives on 1 here. I think it's going to be fine. We'll pass. We can either make a token with the Saga, or pop explosives, depending on what we decide is the best use of our mana. I think most likely we'll be making a token, but we'll see. Well, there's another Seal of Cleansing. Okay. I assume they're going to hit the Saga on 2 here. But they could hit explosives again. I mean, we have a 3rd explosives, so they do hit the explosives. Okay. Well, I mean, we get to play in Hasty Titan this upcoming turn if we're not playing around them having, like, Path. I guess if they choose not to attack, then that would signify their last card is Path, but... Alright, I guess we get to Titan them. We'll go to Instep here. And make a dude. And we'll untap. Dryad. Alright, I can definitely deal with having a Dryad. That's not a problem. Alright, here's the Amulet. Play Growth Chamber. And this is pretty much just game, I would say. We'll pick up, I guess, the Valcut, perhaps? Let's see, we can get Garrison, Slayers, Haste, pick up, have 4 lands, attack, get Bounce Land, and another land, go up to 5 lands, and play land after we play Dryad, and get 2 Valcut triggers. That would put our opponent to 5, so that's not quite enough. I guess if we had a fetch land, but we wouldn't be able to... We wouldn't be able to search for a fetch land and then put it into our hand with a bounce land, so... I think our best place is just pick up Saga, perhaps? Nah. I'm not interested in picking up Saga, I don't think. We'll pick up the basic Forest. Titan. Alright, we'll get Garrison and Stronghold, of course. We are going to leave the maximum amount of mana in play as possible, I think. We could pick up a bounce land so we have multiple land drops to be played with our Dryad, even if our Titan gets pathed during our opponent's next, like, main phase or whatever, but guess just playing the Titan was good enough, huh? Alright, we definitely went Ghost Quarter. Completely overlooked that. And what we cut for that, I have no clue. I guess it's one Saga, just because our opponent did show us Seal of Cleansing. We don't really have that many great targets for it. It's just Dryad, Saga, kind of Amulet, and I guess an explosives if we play it out preemptively, which I probably would do, but I mean, admittedly, that's enough targets to overload their artifact enchantment hate, but I don't know. I don't want to turn their enchantment and artifact hate into a freaking stone rain against us. That really hurts. And you know what else really hurts is this hand having only one land being a bounce land. If we had a single green source here, like to play turn 1 Grazer, I would snap keep this in an instant. It might even still be right to keep it on the back of Force of Vigor, but I don't know. I think we should try to do better. And I mean, this is a turn 3 Titan, if we draw a Titan. So I guess we're keeping it. If our opponent gets us with Seal of Cleansing, then I guess we got. Of course, it's a turn 3 Titan by going turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Garenbrig, turn 3 Float, fetch for an Amulet, play Bounce Land, play Azusa, play Bounce Land, activate Garenbrig. So, here's turn 1 Saga, go! I don't know if our hand is going to be able to compete with our opponents, especially on the draw, but they have Pure Steel Paladin. Okay. We could play Explosives for 0 and blow it up, and that would actually be pretty good on this board, believe it or not. We have to play Garenbrig here to enable a Titan this upcoming turn if we want it. I mean, we could also just play Azusa, land, activate Garenbrig, play 2 Dryads, bounce land, transmute Talari West, or something along those lines. Second Pure Steel Paladin. That one we definitely don't mind. No hammer, no hammer. Alright, so our opponent's on the Motley Crew plan. Ooh, an Amulet. Interesting. Well, we might have Titan this turn after all. We play Bounce Land. No, wait, we play Amulet, play Bounce Land, leave 1 floating, play Azusa. Bounce Land is up to 9, 10, 11 mana with Garenbrig, so we could probably play Dryad down to 8, and then Bounce Land up to 10, and still be able to play all the things we want. Yeah, so this is basically just lethal. Let's go through the motions of it, though. We'll hit 5 just to make sure we don't have any yield set. Customary when you have more than 1 Amulet out, I would say. That is if you're like me and you play dangerously with yields to a single Amulet being a thing. I guess we just want to pick up the Growth Chamber here, since we're going to need the blue to transmute Talari West anyways, so. Right, we'll play Sanctuary here now, just so that we can activate Garenbrig, play some things. We'll leave a blue floating for aid of transmuting. Right, we'll pick up the Garenbrig. We'll play a Dryad, I guess. Might as well. We'll play Simic. Let's see, that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we can play Garenbrig and still transmute and do the Titan thing and have 2 lands in play. And then Titan gets double hasted and all the things. So actually, I think that this is probably just pretty much a lethal line. Unless our opponent has Path, I suppose. Which they might have used on the Azusa by now, I'm not sure. Can we double Titan them? If we pick up Bounce Land and play Bounce Land up to 10, we transmute down to 7, play Titan with 1 floating. I don't think that does it. But we can play Dryad as well. Well, we'll pick up the Sanctuary here. So we play Dryad, have 5 floating, play Bounce land up to 9, bounce land up to 13, transmute down to 10, play Titan. Oh yeah, we do have double Titan here, so we can play around a path. Okay. Thank you very much, Dryad of the Elysian Grove. We appreciate your services. This is ridiculous. We'll leave Growth Chamber in play because it's my favorite. Actually, I'm going to leave the Sanctuary in play. I changed my mind just because having the extra way to make white mana in case we need to Vesuva Sanctuary or something. I mean, it's going to be straightforward. We're going to get Boros Garrison Slayers after we play our second Titan, and we're going to haste and double strike both Titans. And actually, there might be a way to do stuff with Valcut here that would be a arbitrarily better line, but we'll get there when we get there, I suppose. Definitely getting the double Titan here is going to be quite prudent, as now our opponent can't cut us off of either Dryads or Titans, because their one card cannot deal with both, probably. This one will get our last remaining Talari West and Simic Growth Chamber, I suppose. So we have 8. We could leave 1 white floating. We're very close to being able to haste off of Valcut and Slayers, but I think we're 1 mana short, unfortunately. There's a second Titan. We'll play it, leaving the white floating, I suppose. We'll say a yes to this one. And we do have to get Garrison and Slayers to haste here, so we have to just let this white mana go to waste, sadly. And our opponent concedes. Alright, well, I did not expect us to just rip second Amulet and just have Titan that turn, but I guess drawing the second Amulet and having the Talari West already ready to go in hand was just good enough, so, you know, sometimes that happens. And we did end up 3-2, which is fantastic. Like I said, I do have some things to say about the deck list. So, obviously, I don't view 3-2 as a bad record at all. And I do think this list is quite good in general. I will say, though, I think the online meta and local meta are two very different things. Like, for example, I don't think on the online meta playing 2 Cavernous Souls really makes sense at this point, just because there's not a whole lot of blue decks playing counterspells. There's, like, the occasional blue-white control deck, maybe, and sometimes blue-red Murktide, but let's be honest, Cavern is not enough by itself to impact the Murktide matchup, even in Game 1 necessarily, so things like the second Cavern and being super heavy on tireless trackers and, you know, other things like being stuck to 4 Grazers, which might not be a bad thing in the current meta, but it's possible that online Scout could be better than Grazer, but locally, since more people are likely to be playing Burn and stuff, Grazer is just superior. But things along those lines, like, there's small little nuances to both online and in-person metas that make them totally different animals. For example, I think that online, Force of Vigor heavily overperforms. And at local metas, I think you're less likely to run into the decks that Force of Vigor hits. Like, in my experience, there's only been a handful of people playing decks that are considered to be the tier decks or the best decks in the meta. At least at the local shops that I go to, I tend to prefer ones with a bit of a smaller crowd. But, so obviously if you're going to a shop that, you know, gets 60-person FNMs or whatever, which I have heard is the case, then that might be a little bit different. And you might want to play something closer to more of an online meta kind of list, since you might have a wider net to cast and there's going to be a lot more people playing things that are gunning for the win, I suppose. But especially in smaller local FNMs, like I tend to attend, things like the double Cavernous Souls or the double Tireless Tracker, maybe they make sense, maybe they don't. But anyways, that's just where I'm at when it comes to my FNM list. Is these are the assortments of cards that I've found to be quite useful on the local level. And if I were to play something more along the lines of, like, geared towards the online meta, I would probably cut at least one Cavern of Souls, and probably one, if not both, of the trackers for an additional Dismember, I suppose. I would play another untapped green source of some sort. I'm not sure what it should be. Could even just be straight up another basic force, or I don't mind the second breeding pool. And especially online, I actually really, really like the tech of Swansong. I think that there are lots of Cascade decks and Murktide decks and combo decks like Storm, Living In, that kind of thing. Storm is not as popular now, but you do see occasional random things like Song of Creation combo, or that kind of weird stuff. Especially decks that are kind of like memey in a sense, where they kind of do their thing and they let you play through games pretty quickly and do some pretty absurd things, but they're also decent for grinding through leagues. So things like Glimpse combo, I think, are much more convenient to play online. I think in the online meta, it makes way more sense to be playing something like Swansong. So I think splashing for Swansong could actually be pretty good in the current meta. I don't know that I would do it in paper, not only because Swansongs are like $15 a card, and I don't own a single copy of Swansong in paper, but also because local meta doesn't tend to be very combo or non-creature spell oriented in my humble experience, so that's just me. But I've been enjoying having a second breeding pool. I think we even had one occurrence in this league where we had naturally drawn the breeding pool, and Fetchland setting up a breeding pool with double Amulet out would have been a way to produce Titan mana a turn earlier, and then we couldn't do it because there's no second breeding pool. So that's why, in particular, I actually like the second breeding pool. It also works well with our Castle Garenbrig, of course. So, yeah, and I think that's about where it stands as far as changes that I would make for the online meta. I think that having one additional card on the sideboard would be good. Obviously, 14 is not where you want to be, but I don't really know what that card should be. So if you guys have suggestions for a 15th sideboard slot, then let me know. And yeah, one other thing I should mention is I'm not entirely sure how many more leagues I'm going to be doing for at least this up and coming period of time. As you may know, if you saw match 1, I am just now getting school started, and I want to make sure that I have a good feel for my schedule and for the amount of time that I have available for things that are not gearing towards my professional and academic career. And unfortunately, Magic is not one of those things. Not that I have anything against Magic, obviously, at all. But, yeah, so I will keep you guys posted. If you see a league from me next week, then it's very likely I'll be just jamming a Swansong list, like I mentioned now, because I've really missed being able to play with some actual interaction against some opponents playing some non-creature spells, but, and also being able to just completely hose Blood Moon. Just Swansonging a Blood Moon and saying, nope, you get a 2/2. That seems pretty good. But, yeah. Hopefully you guys have learned something from this content, this league at the very least. And thank you guys for joining me for this league. I will see you guys in the next one. Maybe, hopefully. This is Redface Menace, signing off.